I invite everyone in this moment to just take a nice, deep, cleansing breath. Allow the wave of oxygen to just wash over you and cleanse you of all doubt, all negativity. Let it go for now. And if you feel so inclined, go ahead and take another nice, deep, cleansing breath. And as you release the breath, release all worries and all doubts. Allow the love of this moment to just cleanse you. Allow your body to relax and allow your mind to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of this infinite presence, I simply speak these words. I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass, in seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me. I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in the room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude in saying, I'm grateful for the good in your life.
It actually is a simple faith. What we do here, it's paradoxical, but it's not complicated. As the song said, I told a group this in class last week, a group of people who know this already, but I said there's no sin. And I actually, again, told them the story about, I don't think I used your name, Reverend David Dewhurst, but about how you told me the first time you came here, you heard me say there's no sin, and your life has been different ever since. And so I said, yeah, he's completely run amok now, off the rails. We don't know where he is or what he's doing ever since he heard that. But there's really no dogma to it. There's really no, there's not a lot of emphasis on the future, really. It's about the present. It's about now. It's what am I doing now? What am I thinking about now? How am I feeling now? And what am I creating? And yes, I will step into that in the future, but when I do, it will be what? Now, right? Okay. So I'm starting today a 6-week series. Obviously the 4 Sundays in May, and then the first 2 Sundays in June. And then the 3rd Sunday in June will be Father's Day, and I don't know what we'll do. It's also Pride Month. And the final Sunday of June will be the aforementioned Reverend David Dewhurst will be speaking to you. So these 6 Sundays coming up are called 6 Ways from Sunday. And what it's about, I thought, let's talk about what we can do by way of spiritual practice besides this, beyond this, not in lieu of this. I like this. And even if you weren't here, and for a couple of years you weren't, even if you weren't here, I'm going to get up here and I'm going to do this someplace because I like doing this. And so does the team that puts this on for you. So it's not instead of this. It's in addition to this. Where do you go with this once you leave this hall? Where do you take it on, say, Monday? So what I'm thinking is how this shakes out is today will be a talk about Mondays, and next Sunday will be a talk about Tuesdays, and by the time we're done, we'll be back to Sunday. Okay? Now, we're not locked into that. You can do any of this any of the time, but I thought that's if you like structure, and some of you do, and this is where it gets paradoxical and weird, is because sometimes when I say, well, there's no structure here, people are like, I want structure. And when I say, well, we have a little bit of structure here, it's like, no structure, no structure. And so you just do what you do, you know. But to take this out into the world, let's talk about faith. And I had this occur to me. And okay, one more preparatory thing. This is based in some respects, this series, on some writings by Francis Lord, who I brought up last month, and W. Frederic Keeler, who you've probably never heard of. You probably never heard of Francis Lord either before I told you about her, but maybe you did. W. Frederic Keeler was a divine science minister. That's another New Thought organization. He passed, I think, in 1950, so the first half of the 20th century he was working. And some of his material was published after he passed, and I thought it's pretty good. And like I told you last week, I'm a fan of the obscure, so I want to bring obscure spiritual teachers to you who've said interesting things that otherwise you wouldn't know about. And so today is about faith. It's about faith. And what you're not going to get from me is a lecture on how you ought to have more. Okay? How you ought to have faith. You there, you're not having enough faith. Let's see some more faith out of you. Because that's a scolding, and that never works. That never works. In fact, I don't really think that faith is a generative activity of the will at all. And neither do these two that I'm referencing this month. Neither really does Ernest Holmes. In fact, I have a little passage for you here. It says, no amount, this is from Francis Lord, no amount of time spent on studying metaphysics will enable a person to heal. The power comes only from faithful use of the Word and trust in its divine power, and not in any power of your own. There is no power in you or anyone. All healing is due to the power of the Word. Well, if that's true, then it's not so much that we have to build faith as that we can recognize that there's something that has faith in us. And that's the main thing to know. If you walk through this life believing that there's a power greater than you are, that made everything, and it trusts you, it believes in you, and it thinks you're doing just fine. It thinks you're doing just fine. A lot of imaginary problems will go away. A lot of complicated thinking will sort itself out. That there's a power that believes in you just the way you are. Not even how you're going to turn out when you're fixed. When you've read the right book or had the right class or come to the right conclusions or made the right friends or any of the rest of this. But no, right now, with nothing having changed, this power thinks you're doing just fine. And you know what else? It'll think you're doing just fine even if you argue with it that you're not. If you decide you want to change something in your life, you know what it says? I point up. It's not up, but that's, where my hand went. If you want to change something in your life, it'll say, fine. Fine, good for you. If you say, I'm going to keep doing things exactly the way I've been doing them, it'll say, fine, good for you. If you say, I want to regress, okay, and go back to the things that I did wrong, it'll say, fine, good for you. In fact, you can't get it to say anything else. That's unconditional love. That's unconditional acceptance. It doesn't just love you. It unconditionally accepts you just the way you are. And I don't know why more religions don't teach this and why more philosophies don't emphasize this. And I have my theories as to why they don't, but that's beside the point, because that's me going off into judgment, and that I've learned doesn't work. So I'm not responsible for what they teach. I'm very responsible for what I teach. So here's what I'm teaching right now. Spirit, the divine nature, universal mind, whatever you want to call it, accepts you, embraces you just the way you are right this minute, and it can't do anything else. And that's another point about this, is that it's not doing this because it's so big of it to do it. You know what I mean? It's like, I could judge you and condemn you to hell, but I'm not going to because, well, it's Sunday. And so, and here you are, and you're in the right place doing the right thing, and so I'm giving you a break today. That's not at all how this works. Oh, there's a whole backstory to this, how people decided that spirit had a human countenance, that it was like a big parent, principally a father, especially since Minoan Crete. It's been sort of male, and it has as a big amplified human. It has the full spectrum of moods that humans have, and one of those moods is disappointment, kind of in you. I've quoted this awful song before, and I shouldn't because it'll lodge in your head. It's a pretty song, but the words are about, though it makes him sad to see the way we live, he always says, I forgive. No, sorry, it doesn't make him sad to see the way we live. It says fine. It says fine. And if you want to do something different about the way you're living, that's fine too. And here's some ideas. And here's some opportunities, So this one, it's not like it's overlooking a bunch of stuff to love you just the way you are. If it could step outside of itself to judge itself, and you as part of itself, if it could step outside of itself, it wouldn't be infinite, would it? It wouldn't be all there is, would it? It would be stepping out, into some other plane of being, and then we'd be talking a duality. We'd be talking a multiverse kind of thing instead of a universe of one life, one power. And so it doesn't see you as much as it sees as you. Does that make sense? It sees as you. And you are its interpreter of creation. Well, here's the kicker to that. See, when you judge or I judge, it's as though the universe is judging through us, but it's not a complete and fully orbed judgment because it's being made in a subjective way within the container of the wholeness of things. And this seems to be a function of human intelligence. Saw a little bit of this show by accident on TV where they have time-lapse photography of plants opening and stuff and seasons changing. Have you seen this? Yeah. Blew my mind. Blew my mind. I got this whole thing I was going to tell you about trees in the autumn, but I think I'll save it for, the autumn. Because spring is kind of self-explanatory. But, I mean, it was absolutely phenomenal. And I watch all of this happening, and things eat other things, and they broke the whole world into rice and wheat, the two principal grasses, the two principal grains that have sustained civilization. And I watch as all of this is happening, and besides the gorgeous photography and the science that you pick up from it, the takeaway is that none of this out there in nature doing what it does is judging itself or anything else. It's just fully rooted in being what it is. And so a sheaf of wheat or whatever is busy being a sheaf. I guess by the time it's a sheaf, it's been cut. But it's, everything is just busy doing what it does. But then humans come along. And humans look at each other, and then they look at themselves, and they find themselves wanting. And so then, all of this judgment goes on, and it has since, I guess, the Stone Age. And we take all of this, and we attribute it to the divine nature. As it judges that way. So that's a little bit of the complexity of the thing, the mess that we've kind of gotten ourselves into with all of this judgment. But the fact of the matter is the universe loves you just the way you are. It thinks you're doing just fine. You, on the other hand, are entitled to make choices about doing things differently. We all do. Slight adjustments, slight tweaks, or entire life changes. Now, when she says, Francis Lord, that you have no power, that there's nothing you can do on your own, that rankles some people because it's like, I've worked really hard to accumulate power in my life and develop talents. And, this is what you might say to yourself. I'm pretty good at being me. But the power isn't yours. Because for it to be yours, you would have to divide yourself out of the divine life. There's the divine life, and then there's me over here being all powerful. The power is in the Word, and she capitalizes the word as the word that initiated all creation. Fiat lux, let there be light, the word, the announcement. It's not a word. I actually had somebody write to me and say, what is the word? Can I find out what the word is? Like it was, a specific word, which I thought was sweet, but it's a pronouncement. It's not one, you get the idea. It's a statement of the soul. It's a statement of faith. But I myself can do nothing, said probably the greatest spiritual example it is, of whom we have record. I myself can do nothing. It is the power within. He called it the Father in the convention of the times, but it's the power within that does the work. Any of you who are familiar with 12-step work, what's the first step? We realize it's the ego that I've trusted. The ego is another way of saying my body of judgments, my opinions. I stand in my opinions, and they avail me nothing. They avail me nothing. For one thing, they're mostly wrong. When they're not wrong, the subject of them changes, and now they're wrong. Okay? It's going to rain outside. If I stand in that opinion long enough, no, it won't. It's going to be a beautiful sunny. You see what I'm saying? Things change. That you never step in the same river twice. So when we vest ourselves in our opinions, we're wrong. And if we think that being right is essential to us, then we suffer. And there's a very popular and powerful question you've probably heard in metaphysical settings to ask oneself, would I rather be right or happy? Would I rather be right or happy? And a lot of us think, well, of course I'd rather be happy, but meanwhile, I need to be right. Until I'm happy, I'm going to be right. See, I think it will rain. So we work on being right, and we work on being right. And the rightness blocks our faith. Because rightness, I suppose, is about facts and figures. It's about statistics. It's about what's so right now. And right now, our lives look the way they do, and we can't, on that level, by that measurement, imagine them looking any other way. But we live in the midst of infinite opportunity, infinite ideation. And so, to me, increasingly what faith is about is me shutting up in here, okay? Me shutting up in here. Not verbally today yet. You got 7-8 more minutes of this to sit through. But in here, the ratchet that goes around. It reminds me, when I was a little kid, I used to get on the bus in New York, where I grew up, and they had, in those days, you could pay with tokens or loose change. They didn't have bus cards yet. And they had this thing, this glass cube that sat there. You remember this? And you'd throw your money in it, and it would sort it out, nickels and dimes and stuff. And it did so in a way that sounded like a washing machine with coins in it. And it went on constantly because people would get on the bus, as you went, right? And so I can still hear this sound as it churns through all of this money, And it reminds me of what goes on up here. Some people call it the monkey mind. That comes out of Buddhism. I haven't had a lot of experience with monkeys, so that doesn't really connect with me. So I think of it as the loose change mind, or or the bus driver's or whatever, and it's just maybe this, maybe that. Is this going to happen? So what do they think about this? What do they think about that? And what if this doesn't? Oh, and this is a favorite to stay awake nights. What if this doesn't work? It seems to be working right now. It's working just fine right now. But what if everything goes haywire suddenly? Everything that I trust. What if? What if I lose what I have or don't get what I need? And where does our faith go? Well, it's waiting patiently behind all of this, saying you're doing fine. And when you're ready to let go of that nonsense, I'm here. The divine nature says, back of all of this, back of the clouds, the sun. I'm here when you're ready to do this. So increasingly what I'm coming to think of about faith is to relax into the idea, again, that there's a power that loves me just the way I am, and it has faith in me, and that's what I can use. Rather than this big ordeal I have to put myself through of building faith and cultivating faith and then proving that I have it. And she quotes, Francis Lord does, a passage out of the book of Acts, chapter 3, I think, where Peter is talking about, oh, I should have written this one down. They'll find it for you online. Yeah, they'll find it. It's amazing what they're doing down here, I tell you. They're like the Jeopardy judges. I look at them and they say, yeah, we'll accept that. That's all right. But Peter is saying, we healed this man, and something along the lines of, ironically, why do you marvel at this? Is it that you're thinking this was our power that did this? Why do you marvel at this? It's not our power that heals. I really annoyed somebody one time who was going on and on with me about how they were a healer. And I said, well, I don't really think anybody's a healer. Well, and they go all kind of huffy and well, I have credentials. Okay, whatever, that's fine. Now, to me, you call yourself whatever you want, but to me, there's one healing power. There's one healing power. And you either place yourself in a position to be a conduit for that healing power or you don't. But the moment we take credit for it, we say, well, I did this thing, everything begins to recede. Everything begins to withdraw. All the power seems to, whenever we stand in our pride of place, our pride of power, we lose touch with the power. One of my first mentors in Science Mind back in the day said to me, criticism stops the flow. I was being all critical about something or somebody, and he said, criticism stops the flow. And even then I thought, well, that's kind of glib, and I don't know that that's, yes, it does. Yes, it does. Slams the door down on the flow of benefit and puts us back into the coin changer mindset of opinion and strategies and, all of this kind of stuff. So to just relax into the idea, as Ernest Holmes put it, to have not simply a faith in God, a faith in the divine nature, but to have the faith of God, the faith of the divine nature. Wow, And we say that's something really to aspire to. That's a high calling, to have that faith of it. But it's easier than it sounds because it's all there is. And all I can do is impede it. Keeler talks about, he and Lord would get into a big argument about this. He says you don't need affirmations and you don't need denials and you don't need all these different things. Just basically trust in the divine nature to show up as you. She says affirmations are useful, denials are useful, visualization is useful, these different strategies are useful. What are they useful for? Not to change that which is, but to get ourselves out of the way of it. That's why we do these things, right? again, the great paradox, the great irony is there's nothing wrong with us, never has been, but we've thought there was, and we're creative beings. We're powerful creative beings because we are part of the one power, so we can invent this story about ourselves and have it appear to be true. And that's what we're working on. That's what we're chipping away at when we do spiritual practice. Can't emphasize this enough. It's not about drawing God closer or pleasing God or undoing the past or any of the rest of that. It's just about unspooling some of the stuff that's in our head about are we ready to receive these our greatest good, our next greatest good, our next highest good, which occurs to us through ideas and opportunities. And finally this, if you need proof, well, there's a difference between evidence and proof. Proof kind of seals the deal. Evidence leads up to it, So let's just say evidence. If you need evidence that the universe loves you, look at your friends. Look at your family. Look at your dogs and cats and canary birds and goldfish, right? Okay? Look at the nature that you walk out into that welcomes you into it. Look at your next plate of food. Look at the dashboard of your car when you sit down at it. Look at your musical instruments up here. You had a song to sing and you had something you wanted to say, and these things were created and are available to you, and you can do amazing things with them. And somebody asked me recently about had I ever used a typewriter, and I used an abacus too, chipped rock. No, I mean seriously, and look at how everything's evolving, and look at how everything is, and so creative ability, even AI, which terrifies a lot of people, and I don't know what to think. I haven't used it yet, but even AI is like, well, there's going to be something come out of this. There's going to be something useful come out of it. That's how Spirit loves. Again, when I was a little kid, I grew up in a sweet, nice religion, and they told me God loved me, and that was great. And except, he'd get mad at me from time to time, but still, like they did too. Parents, families do too. In other words, he was a big amplified human. And so I had this picture of God sitting in the sky just loving me and, not doing anything about it, but just sort of sitting up there beaming love. But that's not how it works. It shows up here on the ground through the people around us, through the things around us. Even the challenges. Look at it this way. The next problem you have, the next challenge you have to overcome, the next opportunity to undo something complicated or have a difficult conversation. You've been entrusted with that. You've been entrusted with that. The universe says, you're up to this. You can do this thing. You can be a little bit uncomfortable for a while in order to do this thing that needs to be done. You can have the energy. You can have the stamina. You can have whatever it takes. It's there, because you're you. You're you. That's great. So what I encourage all of us to do, tomorrow being Monday, and for many of us it's the start of a work week, you go out into the week, okay, and just affirm to yourself, if you go with Keeler and you don't want to do affirmations, then just say to yourself. You don't have to affirm it to yourself. Just say to yourself with deep feeling. He won't know that it's really an affirmation. Okay. Just say to yourself, the divine nature trusts me with this life. The divine nature trusts me with this life. This life right here. Okay? And see how you feel about it and see what unfolds as a result of that. So let's know together now. That one life, that one divine nature, that one perfect power, being all there is right here, right now. It's in this word that I speak, not because I'm the one speaking it, not because it's this particular choice of language, but because it has nowhere else to be, nowhere else it could be. And this word that is spoken here resounds throughout all creation about these amazing godlings who are sitting in this room, who are watching online, now or at some other now. And I affirm and know that for each one of us, there is a sense of the permeating overwhelming divine nature occurring through us, that we know now that we do see as Spirit sees, that we now do have the faith of creation back of us. And it's easy to trust this because everywhere we turn, there it is. Everywhere we turn, there's change occurring, there's creation happening, and every creation is the first creation. Every cause is first cause, recausing itself. Every source is a resource of the one source, bringing us again ideas, opportunities, material supply, and most of all, companions on this journey, in whose eyes we see the love of Spirit shining back at us for this knowing and its manifestation in form everywhere we turn. I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into law, calling it done, and so it is.
Well, welcome back, everyone. Thank you for being here again. If you're here for the first time online, please let us know. We would like to welcome you properly as well. And speaking of online, please, please, please like, follow, share our videos. We have not only these weekly services, which we love to get out to more people and let them know. We also have daily Reverend Lisa Ryan in the mornings and Reverend David Dewhurst in the evenings, reading and talking and interpreting. They also, if you write something in chat, they will interact with you because they're there real time. So it's really dynamic. We try to make sure that we have opportunities available to everyone pretty much all the time. So with that, again, like, follow, share, go to our YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just let us know that you're out there and you're looking and listening, and what we're doing is good. So we appreciate that. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here, for your presence, for your love, for your support and energy, for your time. Time is precious and valuable. I also want to thank you for any and every monetary donation that you give to our center. Everything you give, no matter how big or how small, we appreciate and we are very grateful for. It is because you are here and giving to us that we can be here and give back to you. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And I invite everyone now to say with me, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
I think those are the, although I'm going to lean back onto the social media. There are a couple of reasons why we ask you to subscribe to like the YouTube channel, because when you are subscribed to the channel, it lets you know when a new video is uploaded. Because I try and get them up Sunday night, and sometimes I have tech challenges and it takes me a little bit longer. One week it was Friday. So when you subscribe, then you'll get a notification that the video is up. And when you like and follow and share the videos, what that does is bumps the algorithm, and the algorithm goes, well, people are looking at this, they want more of this, and so it shares more of our stuff. So that's why we ask you to do that. It's not because we want to see the numbers go up, because we think we have good things to say. It actually does affect the algorithm. All right, I will get off my computer science now, and I'm going to get on to faith. Because I was thinking about this morning, and with faith, I want you to think about it is we're always plugged in. We always have the hose connected, if I'm going to make this metaphor. We always have the hose connected. But you remember when you were a child and you used to kink that hose? especially if you had a younger sibling, you'd like step on the hose, and then they'd pick it up and put it in their face, and then you'd step off of it, and then they'd get a face full. Okay? How many times are we stepping on our own hose? How many times are we kinking our own hose? Okay? The faith is always flowing. We get in our own way. So that's what I'm going to treat for you now. To step off that hose. Can you tell I grew up in the country? Yep. Yep. Country. Country girl. All right. I'm going to invite you into that space. That divine space that exists always, and you have free access to. Always. Into the knowing that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. We live that life. That presence flows through us. That power flows through us. That love flows through us. Each and every one of us are a divine channel. And so today, as we step forward into this new day that has been washed clean by the thunderstorm, we are mindful. We are mindful of our connection to the divine. We choose to allow the power to flow through us. We choose to allow the love to flow through us at full power. And we look into each other's eyes and see the beloved looking back at us. When we look into the mirror, we see the beloved looking back at us. We know that faith, that love, that peace, that joy, that harmony come from an infinite source. And all we have to do is turn up the flow. It is ours for the asking. So all of the amazing things that you are planning to do, that you are in the midst of doing, that you are nearing completion on, you have that back of you. That divine flow. And I know this. I feel this. I literally tingle with the knowing that you are a beloved child of God, that you are spirit in action. You are God in motion. And it is always possible. And I'm grateful to know that. I'm grateful to know the possibilities. And I'm grateful for a teaching that teaches me who I am and teaches you who you are and teaches me who you are. I'm grateful for this place, for this community, for each and every one of you. I'm grateful for our ministers, our musicians, our practitioners. I'm grateful for the technology that allows us to broadcast this to the ends of the universe. And I'm grateful because it feels good. Try it, you might like it. And I relax and release this into love, knowing that it is done. And so it is.
Say it with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am. I choose it. I trust it. I use it. And I love it. So it is.
Yes, you are. That went really well too. All the time.